CSS writing modes lets you control whether lines of text are displayed horizontally or vertically and in what order each of the lines are displayed. This feature is necessary to properly display vertical and vertical reverse languages and can also be used to create new typography effects. If we go to our CSS, we can set up a writing mode property. You can see I've done it here and I've set it to horizontal TB. When I set writing mode to horizontal TB, you'll notice in the browser, nothing happens. That's because for left to right scripts, content now flows horizontally from left to right, and each horizontal line is positioned below the previous line, which is what we normally see in left to right languages. If I switch the text direction to right to left, you'll see the same thing. So the text will flow from right to left, and then the next line will appear under the previous one. Horizontal TB is the default for most European languages and also the default for most browsers. Now let's see what happens if I change this value from horizontal TB to vertical RL. Now for left to right scripts, the content flows vertically from top to bottom, and the next vertical line is positioned to the left of the previous line. The effect is it looks as if we just tilted the text on its side, so it's now read vertically instead of horizontally, but the formatting of the text is the same. If we switch to a right to left language, the only change would be that the first line would be on the left side and then the next line would be on the right and so on, because they're right to left languages, so everything is written in the opposite direction. But it's still recognizable as regular text, and as you can see, you can use writing mode vertical RL to tilt text in a 90-degree pattern on the page. That brings us to the third option, which is vertical LR. And by process of elimination, you should be able to guess what happens here. So when I save this, you'll notice the text is still flowing top to bottom, but now the order of the lines has been reversed. So now we have the first line to the left, and then the next line comes to the right of that, and so on. This makes no sense when we are turning English text on its head, because it becomes very difficult to read. But you can imagine if you're reading a language where each of the characters is stacked vertically and you still want to read left to right, this actually makes sense. Now, the reason why we have these three options, horizontal TB, vertical RL, and vertical LR, is because those three options combined with the RTL functionality allows us to display text in any way that we could conceive of text being displayed in a normal language. Now, in a different movie, I introduced CSS logical properties, and I said inline and block direction relate to text direction. That means when we change the writing mode of an element, the inline and block directions of the logical properties change as well. If you look closely at the block quote markup here, you'll notice that in place of using margin and width and border and padding, I'm using margin inline start, margin inline end, and then inline size and border inline and so on. So you notice there's a lot of inline going on here. That's because I'm trying to control this box so that the indentation and the border and the margin and the padding and everything else is still working the same even if I change the writing mode. Let's see what happens, for example, if I change this from vertical LR to RL, so that it's a little more recognizable, and then go and change inline size here, which is controlling the width of the content. So the length of the text line here from inline size to just width. Save that, and the display is not what I want at all, because with width, which is not a logical property, we are saying the width of the container inside the viewport, so the horizontal width is 40 ch. But because I've now turned the content using writing mode, I can't use width anymore because it doesn't denote the actual width of the content. Instead, I have to use inline size, because as a logical property, inline size will follow the writing mode, and therefore the width will be set the same regardless of what direction the text is displayed. Bottom line, if you plan on using writing mode to change the display of your text, make sure you use logical properties as well to format the box itself.